Hey, what's up? It's Ben Your Addiction with Greg and Ryan, and today we're going to talk about overcoming challenges because that seems to be the theme. So, yeah, man, I talk a lot about this with clients, and like the real problem is like it's really great to have this like perfect meal plan and this perfect workout plan and this perfect like set of ideals, but like life changes that for you, right? Like, so how do you overcome the challenges and how do you overcome some of those things and really, keep at it, right? And so, let's go right ahead with you, Greg.
All right, so yeah, I'm just gonna pull you in. Hopefully, you don't see any boogers hanging on my nose. But uh, that's the. For example, I'm gonna use today my schedule today as the example. So today, I woke up at 3. Stayed in bed because my fiance was over with me, so I stayed in bed until about 4, and then I got up out of bed and made all my food. I didn't eat. Actually, I'm still not done eating. I've got my food over here, but I only had 1 hour break between 5 and 1, so I trained every hour except 8 o'clock, and in that 8 o'clock hour, I decided to do cardio. Uh, Taking priority because like I got that surgery coming up, and I'm really obsessively chasing like making sure that I've done everything that I can to help my body's recoverability after. So heart health and like doing core stuff and all that other work. And aside from that, like I've got my food, and I wasn't going to eat until after I finished, and I also didn't get to eat everything, so I'm still hungry, and but that's okay because like it needs to be okay. Like my schedule for me personally has never really been the same for as long as I've been a personal trainer. My schedule's never the same on a day to day. Like even on week to week, because I got clients that have varying work schedules every single week. So I've got to plug and play. I've got to figure out where they fit and make it work for them. And so uh, I like when I first got into this, when I first stepped away from like a 9 to 5 job into personal training, it was really difficult for me to be able to stay on point because like I was like frustrated. How the hell do I stay on point when like I can't plan my meals, I can't plan my workouts, like everything's freaking changing all the time. And so uh, it's good to have for me. It's a good to have a weekly snapshot of the things that I'm going to be doing each week, having a daily snapshot, and so the night before, I plan what my day is going to look like tomorrow, and I've got to do it that way. And like even with that, I understand that my schedule is still subject to change because clients cancel, clients reschedule, clients this, clients that, and like everyone's got life going on, and so my ability to adapt to the challenges of a changing schedule is something that I've gotten, I would say, fairly good at. And it's something that people would really benefit from not being so attached necessarily to a specific routine. You're a father to young children. Like, you've got a business, you've got a book, you've got your bodybuilding, you've got all the stuff that you've got going on, man. And like, if you weren't flexible enough, I like to think of it like a palm tree. Like if you're not
Yeah.
flexible enough to be able to endure the winds of change each day, then you're not like you'll snap in half. But you have to be rigid enough to be able to withstand those forces. And that's kind of how I think about it, man. Like you have to be flexible enough to make changes, but rigid enough to know the priorities of the day and make sure, see to it that those priorities are taken care of before you go to bed at the end of the night.
Yep. Yeah, I totally 100% agree with you. I mean, today's like an example of that too, man. Like, I'm like you. I don't program breaks in because I know probably one client's going to cancel. And if they don't, oh well, I'm working 12 hours straight, right? It's just what it is, right? And my days like yours too. I'm in the gym before 5, and then getting the kid up for bed. And today, like his bus was like 15 minutes early, which is rough on a kid for him. And like I was like, all right, well, you got to get ready now because it's outside, right? Like they're like, oh, it's okay. And I was like, oh man, so like, and then I like that analogy of the palm tree, right? Like being strong enough to withstand it, but being able to go and be flexible with the time. And it's always like a constant challenge of like everything of trying to have a balance, right? Like you said, like family, work life, competition, all these things. And so I talked with my coach about doing like another competition in like a week and 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, right? And like logistically, it's the biggest challenge it's going to be for a show. Like my wife's out of town for 10 days before that, right? Like I'm not going to be able to. access to the early morning gym as much as I like to because I'll have my kid. And so it's going to be training with him in the morning and how I'm going to do that. And of course, like my normal esthetician who like does all my skincare, she's out of town that weekend too. So it's like, man, how am I going to make all this work? And it's out of town and I got to travel for it. To me, instead of being like, oh man, how am I going to do that? I was like, cool. We get to overcome all these challenges and still succeed and still come out on top. And that's like the way I look at it now. Whereas if you asked me a couple of years ago, I would have been like stressed and been like, oh, how do I do this? What can I do? And like, that's the difference today, man. It's like just being able to go with the flow and being able to overcome those challenges and just being real with yourself, right? Like, I like to tell people, and I tell myself this all the time, you have 100% success rate of all your bad days that you've ever had. Otherwise, you wouldn't be here, right? Like, you literally have gotten over the worst days you've ever had in your life every time because you're still here, right? So that's like a perspective thing when I like think about challenges, right?
No, I like that. I hadn't thought about it really like that. And like overcoming, like I've had some dark freaking days, man. Like when I was bottom of the bottle all the time, like I've had some dark days. Not just because life around me was falling apart, but because my inability to handle the life that was still left. And I made this joke a while ago, and it wasn't really a joke. It's just like, you know, when I like after a few years of being stuck in the bottle for me, like I knew that I would, if given too much, I would inevitably and guaranteed screw something up. So I subconsciously, maybe not purposefully, but I subconsciously made my life extremely small so that when I screw it up, I won't screw up that much.
I used to do that like back when I was using too, man. I used to do it with people, right? Like people that I really cared about. I was like, I'm gonna fuck up your life, and so I'm gonna push you away before I do. With the same concept, right? And now it's 100% reverse. Like now I'm like, how can I help this person? How can I help others around me, right? But before, man, like, and before then, like everything was a challenge, right? Like it's interesting to come full circle and like do all this stuff that's like makes you a better human being in every aspect. It becomes such a like part of your routine that challenges, I used to make mountains out of molehills. Like the tiniest thing would like destroy my life and be an excuse to, drink and use and like whatever, right? Like now it's like, how am I going to rise up? How am I going to come up and like show up as a person today and be 100%, right? That's the way I think of it now.
Yeah. And continuing on, like I've continued to listen to some more of Andrew Huberman's podcast, and like he's talked a lot about like finishing out that growth mindset podcast that I touched on in a previous episode here. Like those that perceived stress with a positive lens, or like you believe that stress is beneficial, you believe that stress is good, are more likely to overcome challenges in the first place. And right, so like this morning, I woke up an hour before my alarm went off, and I would had I been by myself, I would have gotten up. But like my fiance doesn't, like she sleeps like a feather. So like I swear I've had my arm over top of her, and like I've moved my pinky, and she's woken up. Like I it's crazy. I don't like, you can kick my freaking door in, I probably wouldn't wake up. And like anyway, so like I would have gotten up had I been by myself, and like, but I laid there for an hour, stressed out of my mind, my stomach knotting up. Just the same stresses that everyone deals with. Yeah. Finances. I've got a wedding coming up. We're planning a move. Like all these things like are coming together in this perfect storm. And I was so thankful by the time my alarm went off, because I was so ready to move. I was so ready to do something. Because the only thing that's ever alleviated the anxieties of feeling stressed is rigorous action. It's really been the only thing. Like if I don't take action, that stress will eat me up. And so like even on the drive to the gym this morning, I was in prayer, and like one of the things I prayed, and I prayed and like, God, I'm so thankful that I feel this stress, because I want to change my relationship. It's not a bad thing to be stressed. We need stress. Stress inherently drives activity, drives accomplishment, right? If we weren't stressed, we'd be like that old marijuana commercial where, my sister, yeah, that. And when I was smoking blunt after blunt, man, that was what I was like. Like I was out. I didn't do anything. I didn't accomplish anything. I was stressed all the time when I wasn't accomplishing anything, and I would smoke more so that I could be less stressed.
Yep.
And stupid cycle that I was caught in.
Yep.
So rigorous action, and here's the caveat to that is I've always wanted to be efficient. I hate the idea of inefficiency. I hate the idea of not doing it in a very good way. And so I need to know what actions I'm supposed to be taking. It's the difference between being busy and being productive. I can sit at the desk and shuffle papers around until it's time to clock out. Or I can build programs. I can reach out. I can contact people. I can throw up social media posts. Like I want to be productive. So at the end of the day, like though there's more to do tomorrow, by the end of the day, I can go to sleep knowing that I moved the needle in the right direction.
I feel the same way, man. Like I love the idea of being challenged nowadays, and like one of my mottos is I don't lose, I learn. Right, like. And that's the kind of same mindset around that. Like, I'm grateful that I get to have these kind of challenges, and I'm grateful that like I get to push myself, and I'm grateful that life comes at me in a lot of different ways, and then I succeed and I show up. And I was doing the same thing in the car the other day. I was talking about how grateful I am for this body. Like, I was tired this morning. The gym was hard. You know what I mean? Like, I'm in between shows, so I'm extremely physically tapped, and I was like, I'm grateful for this body. I'm in headphones in at the gym, just yelling to myself. I'm that dude in that corner. Like I was like killing my legs. I was like, I'm grateful for this. And man, I was like one of those days where I like stumbled off the machine. I was like, oh, like leg press, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I used to use a lot of excuses like oh, I'm like especially when I was overweight, and I was like, oh, I'm just naturally big boned, or I just hold weight well, or I just whatever, right? Like, and the way I look at it now is that like I get the benefit of having to work twice as hard, right? Like I get that benefit. I have to put in that work ethic to get to where I am now, right? Like I wasn't naturally like lean or whatever, right? And so it takes work all the time. It takes reprogramming my brain into these healthy habits. It takes a lot of extra effort, and like that makes the rest of my life actually easier, man. Like you either make hard decisions and then leads to an easy life, or you make easy decisions that leads to a hard life, right? And like that's kind of been my motto for the past few years. And that's what I think about too. And like one of my like tricks too is like I think about my future self, and if it's something that needs to get done, I'm like, would future you like this done? And if the answer is yes, I do it. Like, you know what I mean? Like, because then later I don't like there's not as much things to be stressed about, right? Like little examples like dishes before I leave the house. Like, do I want to do dishes when I come home from work? Like, no. So I do them in the morning before I leave the house, right? Like, like same before bed, like. Do I want to deal with this in the morning? Like, no, I'm going to do it now, right? And so I just learned to stay on top of shit like that. And then, when it comes to business, like you're talking about social media posts. Like I was just posting social media reels in between us, like between my client leaving and you hopping on. I was like, boom, let's do this. You know what I mean? I've got 8 minutes. I can make 2 reels, right? And, that's where I'm at too, right? Like, how can we optimize this? How can we get as much done? How can we feel at the end of the day like we've been productive as possible? And how can I still make time for the rest of my life too, right? Like, it's one thing to be hyper productive. It's another thing to like let all your important needs go on the wayside, right? And so like, Sunday was an example of that. I was like, cool, it's me and the kid. We're gonna spend the day. We're gonna go to the park. I made him get up early. He still was a fan of it. We were at the park by 8 a.m. and we played till like noon, and we were doing pull-ups and running and like jumping and like getting him worn out. And that way I can get some work done in the afternoon. But it was still like, cool, let's prioritize family. Let's focus on the things that matter. Let's get it done. And like, it warmed my heart so much. We were leaving the park. He'd been there for like 3 hours. He sees a couple pull-up bars, like a low one and a high one. And he goes, Daddy, could we make a workout video? And I was like, yes. Yes, please, bro. Immediately on TikTok and Instagram. I think he's got like 1,500 views right now since yesterday. Yes. Nice. And he's all, I want to be a YouTuber. I was like, all right, man, we can do this. Like I edited, we made a video of him making a sandwich, and like, sure it was messy, and sure it took a while, and sure it took extra work, but like, man, that's the stuff that like I get to show up for now because I've learned to overcome these challenges, right?
Yeah, and I mentioned it in last week's podcast that there's a lot of value in momentum, but how do you get momentum if you don't have any? So you don't just go over to the biggest domino. You like if you look at those life-size dominoes, you don't go over to the biggest one that's bigger than any human being and push that one over. But if you go to the very beginning and you push the tiniest little domino and it goes down the chain, you can end up knocking over some pretty phenomenally sized dominoes. And so that's the domino effect or the momentum. And so for those, like you and I have both talked about the fact of like how difficult it was for us to get started, and not maybe like everything. All right, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
All right, so I went ahead and put my phone on Do Not Disturb as well. So
Is that what happened?
all right, yeah, because I got a phone call and then it fucked the whole thing up. So,
Yeah.
but to put a bow on the point that I was attempting to make, for those that don't have the momentum, where do we start? And it's got to be the small wins at first. Like somebody that hasn't won anything in a very long time needs to find the easiest entry point into winning, and then you can kind of stack those on top of each other, right? So in your situation, I remember you saying like it's making your bed, brushing your teeth, doing what we would consider to be normal things, but we put it on a to-do list and mark it off when you're done, and you can start to feel successful. And then that turns into what, like over time turns into the kind of lifestyle that you have. That you have a business, you have another business that you're trying to, like, membership site that you're building, you have a book that you're trying to write, a bodybuilding show that you're trying to win, and a family that you're trying to build. And like you have all of these things, and your life has gotten so much bigger. But you're 10 years clean and sober, so but 11 years ago you wouldn't have fathomed the life that you're currently living.
No, man, there was definitely like many days where I was like in my driveway, like, man, this is my life. You know what I mean? Like, I own a house, I have a kid. Like, I was like, this is so surreal. Like, you know that song by Talking Heads, like, where it's not my beautiful house, it's not my beautiful wife. And I was just like, I feel that way, man. And like that, like going from like the crazy life that I had growing up to where I'm at now is really started with those fucking small wins, man. Shouldn't swear. But like, you know, making your bed. Like, it really was that simple. Make your bed, go to work, make a meeting, go, you know, start over, make a bed, go to work. You know, like that was a challenge for me to have like a normal life, you know, 10 years ago, to just be a normal person. And now it's like, how much more can we add to that? How much more challenges can we take on and like be realistic about it? And like, it really just is those little wins. And another thing too about overcoming challenges is like reframing, right? Like when something bad happens, it's not the whole day. It's 5 or 10 minutes that were a challenge, and then we move on, right? Like, you know, I took my car in this morning for an oil change, and they're like, yeah, you need a starter and a belt and like 6 other things, and here's a $1,200 bill. And I was like, cool, awesome. You know what I mean? Like, glad I have money in my account, right? You know what I mean? Like, and like, that's fine today. Like, in the old me would have been like, what do I do? Oh no, this is so bad. I'm stressed out. Like, now it's like, all right, cool. That was a shitty phone call, but like, you know, and that's like the difference, right? It's like the reframing, little wins, reframing, and then overcoming these challenges.
Absolutely.
You know,
it's really like, it really is that it's a simple process. Like we hear in the in meetings and other things. It's like it's a simple program for complicated people. It's like, for example, I have my surgery coming up on September 1st, and I'm kind of on edge about it. I mean, it's like other people have had this surgery, they recovered just fine. I'm sure I'm going to be fine.
I had it.
But I've never been under the knife before for anything. And so, like, in that way, I have a little bit of anxiety. And I was having this conversation with the client that left right at about 1 o'clock. She was trying to tell me, well, you can just calm down. And I was like, that's a lot like telling someone who's anorexic to just eat. Like, yeah, it sounds simple enough. Like, yes, if you don't eat food, you should probably eat food. And it, like, in that way, it is technically a simple solution. but it's so more complex because of the psychology that's behind it, right? And so like I want this to be a part and parcel to provide people with an easy entry point. Or it's not may not even be easy, because even the way that you described when you were getting sober, like it wasn't easy for you to do those things like making a bed. But so it's not like, to say make it easy is the wrong way to say it, but to make it extremely simple, so that just lay out the simple tools that other direct predecessors and ancestors have used that have worked really, really well. Believe that we're not terminally unique. Believe that the challenges that I face are similar to the challenges you faced, have faced, are going to face, etc. Like we're not so unique that the things that bother me today are the like I'm the only human that has ever had to deal with these stresses, right? So like get that out of the way, and like understand that there are other people that are going through similar fights, if not the exact same fight. And like this is where like we can promote community and
Yep.
promote some type of brotherhood or camaraderie between people. Is just like I can tell you for sure that my perspective of my problems has severely diminished the more that I try to serve other people, right? So yes, I need to take care of myself. Yes, I need like the simple entry point. Like if you don't make your bed, make your bed. If you don't fold your laundry, then fold your laundry and put it away. Hang it up, whatever. Like if you don't go on walks, man, put in like start getting some walks. And like, but in that same way, like there was a devotional that my fiance was reading yesterday, and it was about how like in ways that we can kill comparison. And the story that was shared was like this woman felt left out because her name wasn't on an invitation to some event. But she realized in going through that list that there were other people that should be on that list that were not on that list. And she contacted the host and said, "Hey, can I go ahead and send out the invitations to the rest of these people that should be on this list?" Was given the green light. Yes, do that. And in that way, she felt insecure. She felt left out. She felt alone. She felt whatever, like all the things that would go along with like you not getting the invitation to an event you feel like you should be able to go to or like should be invited to. She turned that into an opportunity to make sure that others didn't feel left out. And in that way, like it overcame her own insecurity. And then it also, like, ironically enough, at the end of the day, she wasn't able to go to the event anyway because of a conflict in schedule. Right. And so, like, if we're feeling some type of way, you can bet your bottom dollar that somebody else is feeling some type of way about their situation, right? And so like we can help each other. Ask somebody else how you can serve them. Ask somebody else how you could help them overcome some of the stuff that they're going through. And in doing so, like I can tell you for sure, anytime I've made sure to fill other people's cup, my cup runs over. Whenever I've tried to make sure that other people are taken care of, like if you know, make sure that I can help somebody move, make sure that I can help like drive somebody to a meeting that doesn't have a vehicle, or if like whatever it is, like the more that I serve other people, the more my problems and my from my own perspective diminish. So like those challenges that I'm facing, that like they don't seem so big anymore because I don't feel so alone.
Yeah.
Right. And so like by change, like and by a simple change of perspective through serving other people, I'm more apt to be able to face the challenges that I face in my own life, like actually take them on, do them when I get out of my own way and help somebody else.
Yeah, 100% agree, man. Like it puts things in perspective, right? Like it's always like nice to be able to help others and be at a place that you can actually help others. And like it really makes you realize that the little things that matter, right? Like if you want self-esteem, do esteemable acts, right? Like that's always a motto I live by too. And like I'll tell people that all the time. They're like, "Oh man, how are you so confident?" Or "How do I get better self-esteem?" Or whatever. Like do esteemable acts, do things that help people, reach out to others, go participate at a food bank, go help someone in less of need, right? Like, do whatever you can to help. That's really the answer, right? And like in regards to your surgery, like it'll be okay. A lot of people have had that surgery. Like I've had that surgery. It was fine. It's hard for active people like us because you have to take a break for 6 weeks. I think that was the hardest part, but like you'll fine. It'll be okay. right? You'll come back stronger. And I got another client, my client who lifted the kidney stones. He's gonna have the same surgery too. I was talking to him about it last week. He was stressed out about it. I was like, it's okay, man. It'll be okay. Like it happens, right? Like, and it was stressful the first time when I got out of the knife or however you call it, right? Like surgery is a stressful thing, right? And luckily, I'm sure you got a huge support group that's going to be there to help you, and you'll be okay, and it'll be all right, and your clients will understand, and it'll be fine.
Yeah. Thank you for that.
Yeah, totally, man. I mean, life is a series of challenges, and we decide how we get to show up to them, right? Like, what is that? How do you say that adage? Like, life is 10% of what happens to you and 90% of how you react, right? Right? Like, yeah, things are going to happen to you, good or bad, and it's really how you react and how you change and how you decide to handle them. And now, you and I have better coping skills. Before it was like, get drunk or get loaded, right? Now it's like, okay, how do we adapt? How do we challenge this, right? How do we help someone else to get out of our own head, right? Like those are way better coping tools, right? Like regardless of who you are in life, right? And so next time, like you're thinking about having a challenge in your life, or anybody listening to this has a challenge in their life, think about all the challenges you've overcome to get here, and think about whether this challenge is going to matter in 5 years from now, and that'll put things in perspective. And then if it's still a struggle, think about other people's challenges and what they're dealing with every day, and again, put that in perspective, right? And it's always just about how you can reframe it and how you can decide today to show up. That's it.
And I think that you did a really good summary on that. So there's nothing else for me to add right now. So I think it's good, man. Like make it as simple as you possibly can and start winning.
Start winning, man. All right. See y'all next week. We'll talk about how to win.
There you go.